So I'll start with injuries. I'll start with the COVID list. Myles will be out this week. He'll stay on the COVID list. Andy Janovich and Chris Hubbard, we're really wait and see on those guys, so I can't rule them in or out. Injuries coming from the game. We talked about Ronnie Harrison, got his MRI back. He'll be day-to-day with a knee contusion. Sheldrick Redwine also has a knee issue that he's working through day-to-day, see how he progresses. And then Denzel Ward came in with a calf that we're getting MRIs on, and I'll update you when I have those results. Going back to the game, like we talked about yesterday, guys fought really hard. Some adverse conditions there. I just thought the way the defense played, how hard they played, getting their hands on the ball, constantly going after that team, I thought was really impressive. And then able to close it out there and win a situational football game there, as with our special teams having hands team out there. Offense being able to take some time off the clock. So good complementary football there to get a W. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Coach. The first question will go to Jake Trotter.
Hey, Kevin, just following up, you said Myles would be out this week. I assume you're saying he's out for the Jacksonville game, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. The next question goes to Fred Greetham.
Hey, Coach, as far as you saw that pass rush from OV and Claiborne, and, the average fan asked me why, with all the attention to Myles, those guys can't do that every game. Is it just a matter of stepping up, or was it the Eagles offense, or what?
Yeah, I can't speak to the first part, but I will tell you yesterday, those guys were relentless in their pass rush. They played the run really well, a really good collective effort from the defensive line. And it's something that we need from those guys every game.
Thank you, Fred. Scott Petrick is next.
Hey, Coach, before I ask you what I want to, with Denzel, he reported it this morning, the calf?
Correct.
Do you have any, do you think it could be serious? Do you have any kind of information there?
I really don't know. I'll update you guys when we get the results.
Okay. And then yesterday we talked about adjustments a little bit, and Baker said, hey, we're pretty good at adjusting. How much pride do you take in the ability to make the right switches in game?
Yeah, that's our job as coaches, to see what's going on and make adjustments. And I think the misnomer is that they're halftime adjustments. They're adjustments within a series. They're adjustments really happening all the time, whether it be personnel, using somebody else out there, putting in different personnel out there. There were a few things we did offensively. We adjusted a few routes on a couple of the plays that we hadn't practiced it that way, but watching how they were playing, we thought they might have a chance. We changed some formations up late in the game, some runs that we had in the game plan, but we ran them out of some different formations based on what we were seeing. I know defensively, Joe called a couple of different line movements, early, and that's just what happens is you're trying to call the game that's called for, and that's really our job, to see what's going on and put our guys in position to succeed.
What goes into a team being really good at that?
Well, I think you have to have great communication first and foremost, and I think that's what I'm really hard on our coaches, to make sure that during the game we're all communicating well, and then getting that information to the players, because ultimately it doesn't matter what we know, it matters what our players know and what they can handle and what they can put into practice or put in the game.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Nate Ulrich, we'll go to you.
Hey, Kevin, can you tell us, do you have a feel for how Myles is doing? And then secondly, why rule him out on Monday when the protocols, at least the letter of the law, say that you could have a chance to get him back for Jacksonville?
And Nate, I'm not going to get into specifics per se how he's feeling. I'll just tell you we're ruling him out because that's what the protocols call for. We're just following the rules, and we'll continue to do so.
Thanks, Nate. Next up is Tony Grossi.
Okay, sorry guys. Kevin, just a little interested in Jarvis Landry's snap count was below Hodge and Higgins. I know your receivers blocked a lot yesterday, and he's a good blocker, but is he still a little banged up? Is that the reasoning, or what?
Yeah, I think that's kind of how the game unfolded there, Tony. There were a couple personnel groups late in the game that called for one receiver, and Haji was taking a bulk of those. But, Jarvis, you guys know how I feel about him, how hard he plays and how he battles, and the plays he's making are making a difference in our wins and losses.
The other question I had was, it was interesting that although the rain intensified as the day went on, you didn't see a lot of guys slipping, especially the pass rushers. Is that surprising to you, or does that feel unique in some way, or what?
It gives me an opportunity to give a shout out to our grounds crew down there who do an outstanding job down at the stadium and here in Berea. So that doesn't surprise me. I thought the rain was a little bit heavier earlier in the game than late, but it was definitely, those were the elements, and I thought both teams had to deal with them.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Jeff Shadell's up next.
Hey, Kevin, I have two questions. One, Wyatt Teller's getting a lot of notoriety, I think, because of Pro Football Focus. But who else on that offensive line has really stepped up for you? And the second question would be, knowing on Monday you won't have Myles for Jacksonville, is there any advantage to knowing so early in the week you won't have him?
Well, I'll start with Myles. I mean, I guess for the defensive staff, and as we put the game plan together, we know who's available to us. And sometimes you got to wait through the week. There's oftentimes a guy's coming off of an injury, and you got to wait on. You won't see him on Wednesday, and then practice a little on Thursday, and then you got to make a determination Friday. So whatever we have to do in that regard to make sure we have the guys in the right position. And then you mentioned Wyatt. I thought he had a solid day. I think there's some things that I'd like him to do better. I think he has a ton of room for improvement. All of it is technique related. And I think he understands that. And I think our offensive line as a group understands that they can play a lot better.
Thank you, Jeff. Darryl Ryder has our next question.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about the run game yesterday. You had 18 yards at halftime. You stuck with the run. My question isn't about you sticking with the run, but I'm just, curious, your faith and belief that those guys were going to get it going. I think you ran it 27 times in the second half. How much of staying with it when it was tough sledding early is philosophical, and how much of that was just your faith and belief that Chubb and Kareem were going to get it going?
Yeah, Darryl, I just think all those games are their own entities, and that's what yesterday called for. You mentioned Kareem and Nick. I do think that they are the type of runners that they eventually will pop one. I think we faced a really tough, stout run defense yesterday. They got their fair share of good rushes on us. They defeated blocks, so the runs ultimately weren't there, like you mentioned in the first half, but I know how close those are. You just look at the surface, you look at the pictures on the sideline, and you know how close they are. So we just felt like we were going to stick with a balanced approach there, give those guys a few turns, make sure we were making ourselves difficult to defend, and then with their ability to break a couple late in the game, I think was how we were able to cement the lead and get out of there with a win.
Thanks. Thank you, Darryl. Steve Dorshik has our next question.
Coach, there are a lot of ways you could imagine that you can get your team focused for facing a team with a poor record. One of which is you guys, in all of your wins, the other team that you played arguably could say they were in position to beat you. So all of that. But, how are you going to frame it to your team and make sure that your focus is right facing a team that is 1-9?
Yeah, Steve, I think we got to go down there and have our best week of practice, first of all, and then go down there and play our best to win. We don't think we're good enough to just show up and play. That's definitely not the case with us. There's a ton of room for improvement. So our focus really goes to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the type of preparation that is required to get a road win.
Thank
You
Steve.
use things along the lines of the point that I made about each team that you beat was in position to beat you. That a point that you remind your team of?
I think they've been in all these games. They understand how it's nip and tuck, and our job is to find a way to win any which way we can. And I'm sure that will be this week as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We'll go to Zach Jackson.
Can you guys hit your biggest passes yesterday off the bootlegs? Can you just speak to a general sense of why you like those plays so much, and how they can construct the defense when the bootlegs are effective.
Yeah, I think, it's part of our offense that there's certain games where it's a big part, certain games where maybe it's not so much of a big part. And that's our job as coaches to find out what game plan matches up against the opponent. And we had a couple of opportunities with the quarterback on the perimeter yesterday where he had the time to look down the field, and we had a couple double moves there where the guys executed. They did a really nice job. And we're always looking to find explosive plays, and those were the plays yesterday. And we'll see if those are the type of plays that we'll have up this week.
Thank you, Zach. Next question goes to Tom Withers.
Thank you, Rob. Hey, Coach, you guys have not played in a swarm of locusts yet, but I haven't seen the forecast yet for Sunday. Has it been your experience, Kevin, when teams play in these kind of adverse conditions, it makes them physically and mentally tougher?
Yeah, I think so. I'm glad we played in these last 3 ball games, played in the elements, because that's what you're getting ready to play in, when December, January football rolls around. That's Northeast Ohio. So we understand that. And I think, now we're going down to Jacksonville. I peeked at the weather report. It's at 73. So now we got to talk about dealing with the heat. But those are the elements, and we got to be ready to play in all of them.
This season has been such a tough mental challenge. I know coaches like to talk about teams being mentally tough. Has your team surprised you with how, we talked about this a bunch, Kevin, how they've adapted and adjusted and pivoted and had to do everything they possibly had to do?
No, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, Tom. I think those are the type of people that we brought in here. Those are the type of people that were here when I got here. We've talked all season long. Again, I go back to those Zoom meetings in April. We've talked about resilience was going to be a huge key this year. And I think you've seen adversity roll in a variety of ways this season, and our guys haven't blinked. They understand the task at hand, and we really can't be distracted by the things that maybe are a little unique to 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Marla Ridenour is up next.
Yeah, Coach, last week Jarvis talked about how disappointed he was. He couldn't go to a Thanksgiving event. And then Friday, Mac Wilson is passing out autographs at 1. I mean, you had to be concerned about that?
Yeah, we're trying to make sure all our guys are making good decisions, Marla. It's very obvious to all of us what's going on in our communities, and we got to make sure that we're doing everything to keep ourselves safe, the players, the coaches, the staff, their families. We got to make the right decisions now more than ever.
And with Thanksgiving coming up, and I would assume some family members are coming to town. Do you have to send out some specific instructions about that as well?
Yeah, we made sure to educate everybody in the last few weeks about really what's going on and the risks that are involved and the things that you can do to hopefully mitigate some of those risks. But it's very, very strange times that we're dealing with, and everybody on this call and everybody in the country, in the world is dealing with.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Mary Kay Cabot, you have our next question.
Yeah, Coach, just been watching a little bit of the game over again. And, Baker missed those 2 throws down there into the end zone to Harrison and to Austin Hooper. I know he said he would like to have some back. So kind of how did you feel about that sequence and then just his game in general?
Yeah, I thought the weather was a factor. How much of a factor, hard to say. I know Baker can make those throws. I've seen him make those throws, so I know weather played into it. But by the same token, he made a great throw to Rashard on that deep ball, made a great throw to Cordero on that deep ball. So it was a factor. But again, he's hard on himself, and he wants to make those throws, and he wants to get his guys the ball. I know that.
I mean, in terms of throwing into the end zone, do you see that as being any kind of an issue? And I know it's been a weather situation. The one over Jarvis's head last week he said it got caught in a jet stream. So generally, if the weather is good, you don't think that would be any kind of an issue?
I don't.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay. We have time for 3 more. Scott Petrick, Tony Grossi, Nate Ulrich. Scott, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, can you quantify how well Denzel's been playing for you this year?
Not sure I can quantify it, no. But yeah, I'll tell you, he's making plays on the ball. He's tackling well. He's doing a nice job.
And on that blitz where he hit Wentz on the pick six, is he coached to do that if the tight end doesn't release, or is that just a kind of a heads up play by him?
Yeah, I think there's always calls that we have, and then there's also heady plays that guys make in this scenario where a guy's blocking and he knows he can add. So, the really good ones I've been around know when to take those risks, and that was one of those times.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Tony Grossi.
The last 3 games, because of the weather, it's almost been like a game within the game to score first. With that in mind, was it a difficult decision to go for it on 4th and inches rather than kick the field goal?
No, Tony, I think in most cases when you get down there that tight, I like our chances to score. That was very disappointing, that sequence of 4 plays to not score. And that's kind of where I go back. We have to be better. In big games, really every game, if you get down there to the 1 yard line, the 2 yard line, you have to come away with 7. And that's our mentality, and it will continue to be our mentality. And I know the guys understand that, and we got to do anything. We got to run it, pass it, whatever it is. We got to be able to get those yards.
And as the season has gone along now and you're embroiled in the final 6 games and game planning for each of those, has it become tougher to incorporate something new on offense, such as Chubb and Hunt together, especially with your fullback situation being iffy right now?
I don't think so, Tony. I think every week we're trying to put together a unique game plan that's going to be hard on the defense. And if we have to get creative at times, that is definitely something we're constantly talking about. And there's always a package of plays where we can have multiple backs out there, multiple tight ends. I mean, we want to make sure that we're versatile in our approach.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Tony. The final question goes to Nate Ulrich.
Hey, Kevin. So with Ronnie Harrison day to day, do you think he'll be able to go in Jacksonville?
I'm hopeful. I'm definitely, I don't want to overstate it, but I think I feel good about it.
Okay, and back to Myles real quick. Obviously, you needed guys to step up without him, and they did. You guys won, and you'll need it again. But in terms of Myles and the year he was having, he's been chasing that NFL Defensive Player of the Year award. He obviously leading the league in sacks. Do you feel for him to have that kind of season interrupted? I mean, obviously, you could feel for the entire team, but you know what I mean as far as Myles and his success and his goals.
Yeah, I want all of our guys to have individual success. I think that's a big, big deal for all of our guys. I want them to go to the Pro Bowl and put up numbers and win awards like you're talking about. But bottom line is it's a team game. I think Myles understands that completely, and we're all about winning, not so much about awards.